Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. It's been an interesting weekend. Putin apparently has left the building. Like Elvis, he's left the building, and apparently he's in hiding with, nowhere to be found.
Well, he did a TV appearance on Saturday. That was in the midst of this attempted coup, and he essentially said, look, if you continue this, you guys will be considered traitors, and I will deal with you with full might of the Russian military. And then I guess the leader in Belarus mediated a deal between the leader of the Wagner group, Prigozhin, and Vladimir Putin. And the deal was, look, Prigozhin, if you stop now and you come to Belarus, we'll give you protection and you live well, and you can send your troops back to the lines. Everything will be forgotten. That seems too convenient, if you ask me. Maybe we should explain, give a little backstory, what happened. The Wagner Group is maybe the strongest unit of the Russian army. They're not really part of the Russian army. They're a mercenary organization.
Yeah, they're for hire.
Yeah, but he was Prigozhin, who's the head of the Wagner Group. Do you know that he was once Putin's chef? His personal chef? No, not too many people know that, but he worked and
Putin liked the way he beat up a steak.
Yeah, I guess so. They were friends, and so I find that curious. Okay, that Prigozhin would be the leader of the Wagner Group and also have been Putin's chef, but Prigozhin said that their unit was attacked by the Russians, and he got really ticked off. I guess they must have said, look, it was an accident, but he doesn't think it was an accident. He thinks it was intentional. So that was the piece de résistance. So he turned.
Well, there was $6 billion that supposedly.
Well, I'm getting to that. So they turned the unit around, and they head the unit towards Moscow. Along the way, they capture one of the key cities in the south of Russia. It is the city that is the command center, so to speak, of the Russian army and the units that are fighting in the Ukrainian war. Okay?
Right.
But literally, the Wagner Group surrounds them, cuts them off, and kind of takes control of that city. That sends a big signal to Moscow. Then they continue on the road. They get to 125 miles outside of Moscow, and now in Moscow, they're putting up barricades on the streets. They're moving tanks and rocket launchers into position to defend the city. And on Saturday, like I said, Putin goes on TV and says, look, you keep doing this, we're going to have a Russian Revolution like 1917. And that didn't work out good for anybody. We lost millions of good people. And then again, I told you about the mediation where the guy from Belarus came in and mediated a deal, and it ended quietly. The dust settled, and the Wagner Group is heading back to the Ukraine.
Right.
But, and I'll let you continue. I'm going to let you pick up where I'm leaving. You mentioned something about $2 billion worth of money?
Well, I got here, just the headline alone is Putin and Prigozhin play the CIA to the tune of $6 billion. Now, I just printed this story,
I'll tell you what,
haven't gotten in depth on it, but the simple fact is...
We found some money in a recent audit.
We talked about that.
Yeah, $6.2 billion. And they said, we found this money, and so it was initially dedicated to the Ukrainian war, so we're going to put that money into the Ukrainian war. Well, what they're saying in reality behind the scenes is that money wasn't really lost. It was repurposed, so to speak.
Reallocated.
Yes. And what happened was some people are speculating that Putin and Prigozhin did this whole maneuver to get the $6.2 billion from the United States.
Yeah, it was all a setup.
Yeah, it was. The joke was on us, And I do think that if we're involved with this kind of stuff, we're really making a dumb mistake.
Well, It gets back to why the hell are we involved with this to begin with? And you look at all the billions of dollars. I forget how high it is now, but we're probably in the trillions or up close to it. With the money that we've shelled out to the Ukraine, what's going on there. Then not alone but the instability that, if things are real that's going on in Russia, close to a revolution. Well, they're very unstable, and that has a global effect. China, they came out with their statement that, well, we are willing to die to the last Chinese person just to get Taiwan. You're not willing to do that. Yeah. So you've got instability there. What the hell is going on? What else could there be?
I heard people over the weekend talking with glee, like, "Oh, Putin is weaker. Isn't that great?" First of all, many people will tell you that Prigozhin is a true Russian nationalist, and that if he were to have gotten into power, and he were to have replaced Putin, it would be a worse scenario than what we have now. He probably would have used nuclear weapons to end the war. He believes, by the way, that they should do everything necessary to end the war quickly. He thinks the Russian generals are dragging their feet. That's what he's really complaining about. He thinks that the Russian generals are weak, and in order to finish this thing, they just have to do it. They've got to finish it. So, and the other thing about a weak Putin, all of a sudden this thing comes to an end on Sunday, and in the news they mentioned for the first time the testing of a Russian nuclear torpedo is imminent. A Russian nuclear torpedo, which, by the way, can't be seen by the radar systems and things like that are out there.
And imminent, in case you don't know what that means, it means it's going to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We may not know the time or place, but it's going to happen. They're going to test it. And we talked about that they had the subs out there that have these torpedoes, the nuclear tipped torpedoes out there. And they've got subs all over the world, including close to our shorelines. So where the hell are they going to test this thing? And I doubt they would test it on us. But then again, can't put it past them. Maybe a harbor and a port in the Ukraine.
What else they have in Russia?
What?
They don't talk about? They have nuclear-tipped drones.
Yes.
And the drones can't be seen by the radar. They're flying along, at 150, 200 feet in the air, and they're nuclear-tipped.
Yeah.
We're playing with fire.
Yeah, we are.
And I don't think we have the sharpest tools in the shed right now running the Pentagon. I mean,
what makes you say that?
Well, I mean, you look at guys like Kirby, right? Who's the spokesman? He was an admiral, and now he's like the assistant press secretary. But he was the spokesperson for the Department of Defense for a while. I mean, the guy, he's an empty, shallow suit. I think some of the best generals that we've had have taken their retirement and gone home.
Yeah,
and we're left with the dregs, so to speak, the chaff, and it's sad. These are the guys who said it was a good idea for Blinken to go over to China, and then it was acceptable for him to say, look, I know we've said that Taiwan should be independent for decades, since the days of Chiang Kai-shek and stuff like that, but actually, now that we have Xi in power, and to make us look good in the eyes of Xi, we're going to go out in front of a press conference and say we don't support Taiwanese independence. And they said it so matter-of-factly, Blinken did. The other thing I got to point out, but we talked about this before the show, Blinken, in order to get a sit-down with Xi, had to give up something. And what he gave up was they have a telecommunications company in China which was doing some espionage against the United States. And I can't think of the name of the company. It'll come to me, I'm sure, after the program is done in the can and broadcast. It's always the way it is, folks, when you're my age. But the thing is, that company was given a pass in order for Blinken to sit down with Xi. That company was allowed to re-enter certain markets that it was, it was held, it was blocked from getting before. So
Right.
So what we have is just to sit down, not to make a deal, just to sit down with this guy. We had to give up a certain amount of our security because the company, this telecommunications company, was doing espionage. They're working right now, this telecommunications company, with the installation of a Chinese base in Cuba. Right now, 90 miles off our coast, and this clown of a Secretary of State, this ridiculous man who shouldn't be a secretary. I wouldn't want him to be a principal in my local school. And this is the Secretary of State. He's going over. He's Mr. Casper Milquetoast, and he has he's about as dynamic. When push comes to shove, Bill, just say this: when push comes to shove, guys like Xi and Putin are alpha males. They can sense, they can smell fear, they can smell weakness. These guys can smell it. If they took them out of politics and put them into price fighting, they would attack aggressively. They wouldn't wait to get hit. And this is the kind of person we're dealing with. Guys like Blinken and even Biden are not alpha males. They're crooked and corrupt, but they're not aggressive, and they're not the kind of guys you want leading your army into battle.
It's interesting, too. You're talking about the 90 miles off the coast, the listening post and everything like that the Chinese are building. When they do those ocean platforms, they say it's part of their sovereign country, which means, that their territorial waters extend around that. That also means that is listening the only thing they're going to be doing there, or is it going to be armed to the teeth? Because they could do that.
They may have missiles, nuclear missiles, right off our coast.
Mm-hmm. The last time we did something like that was the Bay of Pigs, Cuba, and but we had, he was a Democrat leader, but it was a different type of Democrat, and he was stronger, and he was able to sit there and.
We were lied to then too.
Yes, we were.
You know what happened? For people who aren't aware, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Russians had shipped in ballistic missiles into Cuba, and they were going to install them right off our coast. And we, for a while, we gave them an ultimatum, and said, if you don't remove those missiles, we're going to go to war. And I can remember as a kid, I don't know whether you were old enough, but I can remember as a kid a weekend where we didn't know whether we'd be going to school on Monday because there was a possibility of a nuclear war. There was a deadline and a possibility of a nuclear war. What we were told was that the Russians backed down, that Khrushchev blinked, and that Kennedy was victorious. But in reality, as the time passed on, as the years went by, we learned that we had to give up something first. We gave up, I think it was something to do with land in the Middle East, something to do with weapons that we had in the Middle East. We had to do something for the Russians to pull the weapons. The Russians really didn't care about their PR and our press. They didn't care. They did want something removed from the Middle East, and we did it. But they didn't tell us that. All they told us was the Russians blinked. We got them to move away. The mighty USA once again,
Well, the propaganda that's, to sell to the people, which is what they're doing right now. Everything is all propaganda.
Yep, it is. So this thing, a lot of people think this story is not finished with Prigozhin.
No, it's going to go on, and you'll probably see some developments today after the show. You'll see some stuff in the news because of the time difference. It'll start coming out. The reporters are back. They're getting their stuff. They're writing their propaganda, whatever it is. You're going to see it, and something could play out in it. If something plays out, it's not going to be good.
No. President Trump on Saturday, he spoke at the Faith and Freedom Coalition Conference in D.C., and one of the things that he did was he read Hunter Biden's threatening WhatsApp message to the Chinese business associate. He read it in front of the crowd and the TV cameras at the Faith and Freedom Conference. Listen.
Biden is the most corrupt president in the history of our country by far. Just 2 days ago, a very respected IRS whistleblower, used to be very much, you remember when the Democrats used to love whistleblowers? They don't like the whistleblowers now. Revealed that Crooked Joe sat in a room while his son Hunter messaged a Chinese Communist Party official and said to this Chinese Party official, I quote, I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. This is cash he's talking about. Yeah. Tell the director, and it doesn't get reported in the newspapers, tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means right now. It means tonight. You believe this? I didn't know he was that tough. And if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, my father, right next to me, Pop, hi Pop, and every person he knows, you will regret not following my direction. Now, can you imagine the newspapers not reporting this? Not a word of it in any of them, mainstream. I'm sitting here waiting for the call, he said, with my father. I'm sitting here with my father waiting for the call. In other words, send us money. Within 10 days, the Bidens got $5.1 million from China for absolutely no reason. They got $5.1 million.
And what do they sell? What do the Bidens sell? Do they sell like a widget? Do they sell a product of some kind? What do they sell? I mean, do they manufacture something that we don't know about? I don't think so. I think all they sell is influence.
It was an order to put in money, put in a request for money from the Chinese printing press. That's what he was doing.
Exactly. I learned something else about President Biden, that during the whole influence thing, the whole scandal, apparently Hunter gave Pop a special phone. Peter Schweitzer, the author and guy who really is an expert on the whole Biden crime family, he was being interviewed about this. Listen.
Good point. Look, you both have broken so much news on this story. Peter, you broke a lot of this years ago about the Biden family influence peddling, and you've got new information this morning, breaking news on a cell phone that Joe Biden was using. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. What is the line of communications between Hunter Biden and his business partners and Joe Biden when he's vice president of the United States? It's not the government phone. It's not Joe Biden's personal phone. We know from the laptop that Hunter Biden's business paid for a private phone line that Joe Biden used while he was vice president. It was from AT&T. It was $300 a month. It was a global phone where you could access somebody anywhere around the world. We shared that phone number and that account information with people at the House Oversight Committee. My hope is that they haven't already. They will subpoena those records because I think it will give an indication on how tight the communication was. And that may be the phone, for example, that the Ukrainian, the Burisma executive might have used in this allegation that he talked to Joe Biden in recorded conversations. I would just say one other thing, Maria, as it relates to that sort of shakedown phone call with Henry Zhao that we alluded to. Henry Zhao in 2015 had already sent $5 million to the Bidens. He was the head of a Harvest investment firm. And what's interesting is in the correspondence there, Hunter Biden again talks to Zhao in the context of this is a deal that's important to my family involving his father. Let's also keep in mind we fixate on the criminal element of this. We also have to focus on the espionage element of this. Henry Zhao paid $5 $5 million to Hunter Biden from an account that was part of a company that he co-owned with the family of the Minister of State Security of China, who's in charge of the entire spy apparatus. And you see that in every deal that Hunter Biden did in China. These individuals that are sending him money have ties to Chinese intelligence.
Unbelievable. We have to take a quick break and then.
Wow, unbelievable! I gotta tell you, Biden is dumber than I thought because they're dealing with somebody who's a Chinese spy, and nobody has said this yet, I don't think. But don't you think the Chinese have tapes of every single one of their phone calls?
Oh, hell yeah, they do. I mean, I would do that if I'm doing something nefarious and I have somebody from the other side that I'm dealing with. You're damn right that I'm going to have phone call record. Every phone call recorded. Yeah. I'm going to have, if we're meeting, there's cameras in the room that you don't know about.
Yeah,
and there's probably going to be a specific a specific format that I'm going to adhere to and follow in my conversations and meeting with you, because I want to be sure that I have some goods on you.
Yeah, and I think that's the case with this situation. I think that Joe is dumber than I thought because they must have been so anxious for the money. And obviously with that, if you listen to the text of that conversation, that WhatsApp message, and I think I could be wrong. I think the thing that makes WhatsApp interesting is I think it deletes itself after a certain period of time, supposedly. I could be wrong. I don't use that social media, but I think there's something that makes it unique. But
that might be the one. Yeah, then that's been around for years. I was asking you about it because I was going, I don't use that thing. What is it? But I remember my kids saying one time, people were using it to talk or post pictures.
It doesn't
and then,
save it.
They're gone. Yeah,
but it really, nothing is lost in the world of digital.
Well,
I mean, you may not see it.
If there's something out there that says, no, we erase it, it is going to some dark secret place somewhere because you got to understand how business works. And business today, no matter what it is that you do, you can make a lot of money doing this. Well, they're making money off of you. And then if they don't make money off of you, you're already on a spreadsheet that they can sell as a lead to somebody else. So that information that you put out there, it's a lead to somebody that's going to maybe someday, if you become important, blackmail you for money.
That's right.
And that's what will happen.
And I think that's what the case is right now. I mean, a lot of things are happening, and you scratch your head going, why are we being so deferential to China? Why are we being cutting them so much slack? And maybe it's because they got stuff on our executive, our chief executive. Our president is really in a bind right now because they probably have said to him, look at Mr. President, you know that meeting we had 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and we gave you all that money in those satchels? Well, we also had that on videotape and on audio tape, and we could make a big thing out of this if it were to be released. We might just say, hey, look at this is what your president. But here's the thing. I think, and I could be wrong, I think they've made a determination. Our deep state has decided that Joe is expendable. I think they've decided, okay, we're going to let him go. Because all of a sudden, the press is starting to ask questions, not just the conservative press like Newsmax and Fox to a certain extent, much less of an extent now than it did, a few years ago. But now they're getting questions from NBC and from CBS about the whole Biden scandal, and I think they've decided that Joe can go. But here's the problem: if they continue to investigate Joe, even if he were to resign tomorrow, the investigations aren't going to go away. And can they afford to have Joe sit down in the docket and be questioned by a bunch of senators and congressmen in his diminished capacity? Who's he going to tell on? Because are they afraid that, let's say hypothetically, a former president of the United States who had a house in Washington and was downstairs in his jogging and sweats was issuing the real orders, that they were to, I mean, he was the real brains behind the Biden administration, so to speak.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't want that known, and Joe might just give that information away. I guess what I'm saying is, can they afford to keep Joe around? Or will suddenly Joe have a stroke? Or will suddenly Joe be sent away to a rehab center where he's incommunicado?
Well, the Democrats, they do have a machine. So let's just say that you took Joe. I think Ted Cruz now is calling for the impeachment of Joe Biden over the Hunter, thing that's going on. So I would think that the Republican Congress would and could impeach him. What if the House sat there and said, a good way to get rid of him, we'll step somebody else up, we'll put, and then they can put in their people to play. Now, I don't think, Kennedy is really looking good out there and growing strong. He's got crowds coming to him, but I don't think he represents where the Democrats want to go or what they want to be.
Oh, I agree. So, I don't think he's part of the deep state.
No, and see, that's going to be his problem. He might be running as a Democrat because he has to, because that's what he is, but he's not a Democrat.
Yeah.
He's not today's Democrat. So what is he?
Well, that's a very good question. And can they afford to have him sitting in the office? Is he going to ask too many questions? Is he going to be kind of like a Trump light? I mean, it's hard to say this, but to a certain extent, somebody from a traditional political family like a Kennedy might actually be an outsider right now. He might.
Well, I think he is.
Yeah, he's not really part of the left anymore. He's more of a moderate, middle of the road Democrat.
Yeah, and America loved the Kennedys, and they're still in love with the Kennedys. They have been forever. I never understood that, going through life, what that was, but especially the history of the family and everything, that they were involved with. But with all that said, there is a love affair, and I'm not going to say that John Kennedy was a bad guy. There's that love affair, but where does that put a lot of Democrats today?
Yeah.
Is that going to kill the party? The Republicans got a problem with Trump because is he going to kill the party? But they realize they got to embrace him. And all those lawsuits that are out there going against Trump, actually, it is not a negative for them. It's actually working out to be a very positive asset because people are seeing the media and the Democrats for what they are. And Trump's, strength, his numbers are growing, his strength and hold in the Republican Party is growing. He could be in prison and elected president.
One of the biggest anti-Trump journalists out there is Chuck Chuckles Todd.
Yeah.
The Chuckles part I added. That gives him a little personality. And
Charles in charge, well known. But
yeah. Anyway, Chuck Todd, I guess on Meet the Press on Sunday, he came out and gave the latest NBC poll. 74% of voters are deeply dissatisfied and say the nation is on the wrong track. But the poll also talks about Trump and his strength, much to the chagrin of Chuck Chuckles, because Chuck doesn't like to say anything remotely positive about Trump. As a matter of fact, when you listen to him comment, listen to how he presents the positive facts. It sounds like they're negatives. This is Chuck Todd on Meet the Press on Sunday.
We have a brand new NBC News poll that we're releasing this morning, and in it, voters are deeply dissatisfied with the direction of the country. They're concerned about the mental and physical well-being of President Biden. But the story of the last 4 years is still true today. And in this poll, the best thing for a Biden re-election campaign continues to be the presence of Donald Trump. Just 20% of voters believe this country is headed in the right direction. 74% say the nation is on the wrong track. Let me tell you something about this moment. We have had this sustained period of 70% about a year now. The last two periods in the history of this poll that we've had this kind of sustained negativity about the direction of the country was before the 92 election and before the 2008 election. Both of those changed the party controlling the White House. Now, let's get into more of the poll. Biden's job rating sits at just 43%, about where it's been since the withdrawal from Afghanistan. 53% disapprove. A full 68% of voters, including 43% of Democrats now, which is twice what it was in 2020, say they are concerned that Biden does not have the necessary mental and physical health to be president. For what it's worth, when we ask the same question about Donald Trump, who's just a couple of years younger than Joe Biden, a majority also have concerns, but it is 55%, a full 13 points lower than the concerns over President Biden. But in 2020, Biden won more because of who he wasn't than of who he was. And in a head-to-head matchup, Biden leads Trump by the same 4 points that he defeated him by in 2020, 49-45. In a matchup against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, you can see here it's 47-47. I'll tell you in a few minutes what that difference is and who are those swing voters. One thing that doesn't appear to be changing voters' minds so far is Donald Trump's federal indictment. Just 34% of a positive feeling towards Donald Trump, 56% feel negatively. Guess what? This hasn't changed a bit in about a year. And although a majority of voters overall, 55%, have real concerns about these federal charges against Trump, just 23% of Republicans do in primary voters. Just 16% told us they have a major concern about this. Instead, 64% of Republican primary voters call the investigations into Trump a politically motivated attempt to stop him. We asked the same question in April. It's just 4 points less than what it was in April. 31% say it's important to nominate a candidate who will not be distracted by legal problems and can focus on beating Biden. Pay attention to that 31% a minute here. So I'm going to show you something in a minute. And though only half of the Republican Party, 49%, say the Republican Party should continue to be led by Donald Trump, the not-Trumpers are not coalescing around any of Trump's rivals. Trump overperforms these numbers. In the Republican race for president, Trump leads Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by 29 percentage points now. He's got 51. DeSantis, the only other candidate in double digits with 22. This is actually nearly a doubling of what the margin was in April. Trump was under 50. It was 15 percentage points. And in a head-to-head matchup in a Republican primary, Trump almost has a 2-to-1 lead here, 60% to 36. So again, 49% say they don't want Trump to lead the party, and yet he's overperforming that number. There are never Trumpers voting for Trump over DeSantis. By the way, the DeSantis voter profile there doesn't match the campaign he's running, for what it's worth. Meanwhile, the groups where Trump does lag behind DeSantis in that matchup against Joe Biden do offer another warning sign for Trump and the Republican Party if he is the nominee, because they represent the most of the persuadable electorate. They're independent, they're women without college degrees, voters over 65, swing state voters, and voters who say they only somewhat disapprove of Joe Biden's presidency. So like the soccer moms and office park dads of past cycles, this cycle's key swing voter may be these somewhat disapprovers, because they were huge in the 2022 midterms. And right now they're picking Biden over Trump. And of course, the other giant red flag in this poll for Trump and the GOP, unlike previous Supreme Court decisions on interracial or same-sex marriage, public support for the decision overturning Roe v. Wade is not growing. If anything, it's moving away. A year after the Dobbs decision, it has become even more unpopular. 61% of voters disapprove, just 36% unapprove. It is a massive generational gap there, by the way, for what it's worth.
Okay, that's Chuck Chuckles and NBC, which, in my opinion, when I hear NBC poll, the first thing I think of is a push poll. What a push poll is, it's a poll that is influenced so that the results will end up in a certain area, you know?
But the numbers he's giving is showing, actually, contrary to what he's trying to sell you, is that the Democrats have nothing right now. And we've got Trump. And Trump is growing in popularity no matter how you slice and dice those numbers. And I'll tell you why you have the independents that are coming over, or even Democrats are never Trumpers. Because one thing that Trump says that resounds to everybody's ear, one thing, he says he can fix it in 6 months, and we know he can, because they remember from his previous record, he did what he said he was going to do, And no matter what the government says, the Biden administration says how great the economy is and how things are moving this way and that way. And I can tell you this, any positive numbers are comebacks from the disaster of COVID. And they're not real, but production is down. There's so many things that are down that we are set up for a big fall. And the only person that is going to be, I mean, you've got the European nations. There's a bunch of them. Now, I don't have the list in front of me. I'd written it down the other day. But all these countries that are in recession, we are on the brink of recession. We've been hanging on, but it's imminent. Our banking system, there's a problem there. So we're going to have a collapse, not just a slowdown, but a collapse.
Well,
and
one of the
Trump
figures
is the guy that could fix it.
One of the figures that they pointed out, and when Todd was giving his reading off the figures, he said, and this is, you have to pay attention to how they respond. 55% have a major/moderate concern about Trump's federal charges. Did you hear what I said? 55% have a major/moderate concern about Trump's federal charge. Well, is it major? Or is it moderate? Moderate is a big deal. If a guy says, I got a little concerned, is that moderate? Or if somebody says, I'm very concerned, that's key to me, that's major. But if more people said, I'm a little concerned, that's a big deal. That was all lumped into that 55%. Do you know what I'm saying? These are push polls. They're trying to influence the result. And even with that, it's still pointed out that Trump is strong. And all the fighting that's going on right now in the Republican Party, and all these different candidates running around pretending to be running for president. You know, Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is like 22% now, and Trump is at 51%. I mean, Trump is just, he's rock solid and pulling away. And DeSantis, if anything, his lead is being eaten up by the other people who have entered the race. And you kind of wonder, don't those people know their chances of winning are slim and none? I mean, how much do you think somebody like Asa Hutchinson really thinks? Is his ego so big that he thinks that he can garner most of the votes in the United States and be president of the United States? I mean, I don't know. These are either dreamers, delusional, or there's another agenda going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Money, money, and money. The reason that I think they're in it is the simple fact they probably in their heart know they're going to lose. There's a chance they could win, but they're going to lose. But that money, what happens to their campaign money?
Well, I get to keep it, I guess. Well, they pay off their bills, and what's left, I guess, goes into their bank account.
It goes in there. It's their money for whatever they want, or if they run again. But it's their money, and people don't understand that. You know, well, you get those little texts all the time. Once they get you on a database, they get that. And you know, friend. They always start it with friend.
Yeah,
we need your help. We're at a critical thing today. As a matter of fact, the cutoff is at 2 p.m. Do you want to go in for $50? I mean, you can go in for an amount you want, or 5, 10, 25, 100.
Yeah.
You know, now this in the fine print down below, whatever you check off, it's a monthly payment. You know, you are taking on a bill.
Trump, by the way, I heard over the weekend, another poll came out, one that was obviously more favorable to Trump. It said that people aren't concerned about whether he's indicted or not. If he's indicted, even if he were to go to jail, they were going to vote for him.
Right.
So this is what the left has to deal with right now. And I don't think, because I don't think they're honest people, I think in many ways they're anti-American. I believe that they are not going to allow him to win the 2024 election. And I'm just a guy on the street, folks. I'm just a guy like you and like Bill. I mean, we're just regular people out here looking from a very distant vantage point. We're not up close like a lot of people are. But it seems to me that if they stole 2020 rather, and they didn't fix the system, and to my point of view, it hasn't been fixed yet, it's not going to be a different result in 2024. It's going to be a result where they have their candidate on the left victorious. It's going to be stolen again. And I don't know how the heck people can just go along like, well, if you all go out and vote, we'll have a different result in 2024. I think Trump won by maybe 10 million votes at least, maybe more in 2020, and it didn't do him any good.
I agree.
So,
But,
anyway.
we're election deniers, so don't you forget
I know.
because
Gosh,
they'll
yes.
let us know.
They make it sound like it's a mortal sin to question an election. Where I come from, growing up, you had a right to question everything.
Not anymore. Not anymore. And, you talk about, the machine is in play about winning in 2024. One of the things that I know that happens all the time in the news, there's like tit for tat, if you get this, you got to concede that. One of the things that's being floated, Ted Cruz is bringing it up again to impeach Biden over the Hunter investigation findings. But, that could linger in the news for a long time. And then all of a sudden, they go ahead and give us that one. The Democrats go ahead and give us that, that carrot on a stick and say, here you go. You got him.
Well, you know what they want to
That's
do
it.
now,
We'll
Phil?
impeach him.
They want the special prosecutor, Smith, wants to move the case to December, which will put it right in the middle of the primary season.
Of course.
Right in the middle of the election. That's really tie Trump's hands up. Amazing.
Well, they want to do that, but see what they could do is give, the American public, okay, you got Biden. He goes out in disgrace. Well, a lot of times people have in the past, or maybe it was the machine out there manipulating it. Well, now the people are swinging the other way. They always do this every time. When they get something one place, they counterbalance and they go and give something to the Democrats. So in other words, I'm just saying he might be the sacrificial lamb to sit there and sell the lie one more time.
Well, I think what they should do, I think Trump's lawyers should say, look, if you're going to put it way off, why don't we put the whole, all these indictments off until after the 2024 election? Let's just put it off completely until the election season is behind us. You'll see all hell break loose on the left side trying to stop that from happening. Their whole purpose to indict Trump is to screw up the 2024 election, to keep him bound and his hands tied. I think that one of these judges who was appointed by, I think either Clinton or Obama, had told Trump to keep his mouth shut about the case. I mean, this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. This whole process is so obviously election interference that it's beyond my. I mean, anybody who's sitting around saying, "Oh, this is just a coincidence. Trump is a crook," you're just not paying attention. You're not doing it. Did you hear the Trump-appointed judge was who, by the way, donated to Hillary and McCain and Romney?
Yeah.
She was assigned to the Hunter Biden case. Mary Ellen Noriega will oversee the Justice Department's case against Hunter Biden. So even that is being scrutinized. There was a time, I know this is hard to believe, but there was a time when the media didn't say who appointed who when it came to judges. Seriously, I can remember like 10 or 15 years ago, if they said Judge Joe Schwartz will be handling this case, they didn't add the Trump-appointed judge or the Biden-appointed judge. They just said Judge so-and-so from the 4th District will be handling the case. Not anymore. Every time the media mentions a judge, they've got to make sure you know who it is, especially if it was Trump. But they got to make sure you know that it was an appointed judge by X president or Y president, So let's see what else is going on in the world today. We're racing along here. Do I have any more great audio to present to yins? Oh,
I don't know. Do you?
I do. I do indeed.
All right.
I've been holding this one off a little bit. You know, the Los Angeles Dodgers are becoming a very woke team.
Yes.
Baseball is becoming woke. You know, just what we need. You know, the national pastime should be something that is neutral. You go there, you forget about politics, you forget about the world. It's going to heck in a handbasket, but don't worry about it. The baseball game's going to start in 2 minutes. And when the baseball game starts, everything goes into neutral and all is well with the world. Well, not anymore. Everybody's starting to, you know, they're giving awards to the sisters of, what would they call sisters of something indulgence, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
I don't
Sinful
remember, but-
indulgence or something like that. But anyway, they talked with Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling, if you don't remember, was a pitcher for, I believe, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he also was a real star pitcher with the Boston Red Sox. He won a couple. He was the pitcher, I believe, who made it possible for them to win their first World Series since, like, the Curse of the Babe back in 1918 or 19. So, I mean, Curt Schilling was amazing. He was the pitcher, if you remember. This had to be, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe 2004. They showed a close-up of his ankle, and his sock was bloodied because something had happened. He cut himself in some play, and he was pitching with a bloody ankle during this key game, and he won the game. He was a masterful pitcher, maybe one of the best pitchers in the last 50 years, Curt Schilling. But anyway, the problem with Curt Schilling now, unfortunately, in this day and age, is that Curt is a staunch conservative. It's a terrible thing to say. Curt Schilling is a staunch conservative, and but he was asked about where we are with sports. Are we at a breaking point? And here's what he had to say. Honest to God, I got it here.
Is that what he said?
Well, he was
That's
really
amazing.
quiet about it. Let me try it again this time.
He is.
I guess I should press the button that starts it. You know?
Stadium. They're going to have these anti-Christian nuns that like to spank Jesus on parade routes. What are ball players thinking here?
Well, they're thinking about the game. This is one of those things that the only reason it permeates the clubhouse, if it does, is because the media brings it in. And the problem is that probably 90% of the guys standing around the locker room as media members are for this. They're liberal. 86% of the sports media is liberal, which means they're cowards. But it's amazing to me, Jesse, that guys that are billionaires can't do math, because what do you think? Let's say there's 10,000 trans people in LA, and I think that's probably pushing it. There's 1.3 billion Catholics in the world. I mean, let's not offend the offensive group, and let's make sure that we cater to a crowd of people who literally after tonight will never step foot in Dodger Stadium again, and then we can offend 1.3 billion Catholics in the meantime.
These aren't even like regular trans. Regular trans usually just kind of do their own thing, whatever, do your thing. These are hateful people. They bum rush churches. They make a mockery out of communion. They desecrate Jesus in public. They're sticking their middle fingers up at the cross. This is who Dodgers Stadium is allowing to be honored tonight. Who even owns the Dodgers?
Right. Well, it's not even that they're right. You just said the word that kind of, I guess, offend would be a strong word for what I am. But okay, invite them to the park and do the stupid things you're going to do. But to give them an award, seriously,
for what?
I mean, for revealing their genitals to 13-year-old kids on a public venue, golf clap.
Right.
That's what an achievement. But it's a sad day. And the problem is, Jesse, if you look at, I love coming on this show. I love talking to you. I love what you've done, what you're doing in your voice. But the fact of the matter is, I'm tired of listening to Jim Jordan and Matt Getz and Dan Crenshaw and all these people talk. That's all they're doing. They're talking. We're up against a side and a force that doesn't play by the rules, refuses to play by the rules, just look no further than the unconstitutional legal thing going with former President Trump. And we're not doing anything about it. We're talking about it, and we get excited and we get emotional. That's it. They break the law. They do the things they need to do to ensure their agenda is driven forward. And we're watching them gut our nation from the inside out. And I don't know where the rubber's going to meet the road, because, it's true sacrifice. You look at the guys the young men that signed the Constitution and all the things that they sacrificed everything to come out from under a tyrannical government. And then eventually at some point there was a man at Concord who decided he was going to pull the trigger. And I feel like we're getting back to a point where somebody's going to have to pull a trigger, because everything we hold dear, everything this country was founded on, is being just dragged through the mud and mocked and made fun of. This country was founded on godly principles. No matter how offensive that is to the left, it's true.
Well, I'm going to assume that you mean pull the trigger metaphorically.
Absolutely. Well, no, I mean, it doesn't matter if I say metaphorically, because they're going to run with that quote no matter how I put it. I could have phrased it in any possible way, saying stand up and fight and blah, blah, blah. And I would be inciting a riot while Maxine Waters says, get in their face and
no,
beat
I
the hell out of them
understand. And I've said this to Jim Jordan. I've said this to these congressmen. They throw a subpoena around. They fire off a really bold letter. Gotcha. Republicans need to go on the warpath. And that means they got to use every tool necessary. They got to do what's being done to them, because that's the only way this is going to stop.
And the problem is that the left's winning because the left is relying on our morals and ethics. They know we'll play by the rules. They know we'll follow the laws. And they're not playing. It's like fighting a guerrilla war.
Yeah, I get it.
That's exactly right.
I got it. We got to reevaluate the whole situation, and we'll figure it out. Kurt Schilling, have a great weekend. And happy Father's Day.
Take care, Jesse.
All right.
What a great interview. Kurt Schilling, one of the greatest pitchers in recent memory with Jesse Waters. Bill, and people may say, oh, that's so dramatic. Over the weekend in Seattle, they had pride parades. I guess they were scheduled all over the country.
New York, Friday, everywhere.
Fully naked men. I saw the video, were exposing themselves to children at a pride parade in Seattle, Washington on Sunday. Now, this is not made up. This is not a couple of people. If you see the damn picture, it is a big parade, and these guys are walking around completely naked, flashing their junk at kids.
And I got to tell you something. These men that are out there flashing their junk, or the guys like in New York City that were out doing it, we're coming for your children.
Yeah, that was women
in lingerie. Yeah. But these are, frumpy old men that look like frumpy old men in lingerie. And usually transgenders, the ones that are transgending, they wear makeup. They are very effeminate to where they portray that, whether you want to accept it, buy it or not, but they at least do that. And a lot of them don't like the perversion that these are frickin' perverts. And, they're sitting there, they're using it as an opportunity to sit there, I'm going to put on a wig and put on some women's underwear, and I'm going to go out and get me some kids. You know what? You need to be locked up. If you're coming for our kids, you need to be locked up. I could say a lot worse, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, this was in Seattle. Naked men on bicycles and walking up and down the street, walking up to kids naked. No dignity, no respect. Just completely lewd, vile acts. And in Minneapolis, there were women who were naked from the waist up, who were walking around flaunting their breasts at kids. And then, like Bill said, in New York, there was a group of naked men and women who were marching around, dancing around, prancing around in a parade, saying, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. Am I right? That's what they were saying? We're here.
No, actually, the chant here was, we're coming for your children. But, yeah, they did the we're here,
we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. So, I mean, and it seemed coordinated around the country.
It is. If they had it in more than one city, it's a coordinated, planned event, and democracy, civility, any word that you can come or I can invent. they're attacking it. They are attacking the very core values of our society.
Oh, yeah.
And Christianity, and when I say Christianity, I'm talking about all faiths.
Right.
All right. Is being attacked. They want to tear it down. They might, in one hand, sit there and go, "I'm spiritual. We're spiritual, and we have these values, but we want this." And that is not. There's no truth in that at all. You can't play both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
But they do to get their way, and this is the fact that they're talking about the children. They're perverts.
Bill, if this happened 10 years ago near a schoolyard, if a guy walked up and dropped his trowel in front of kids at a playground, the cops would surround him, he'd be in handcuffs and arrested. Mm-hmm. What's the difference? Why is it now that all of a sudden these guys, and I'm talking about a whole group of guys, can be marching in a parade completely naked, not a stitch of clothing on them, maybe with some body paint in certain parts, but they're literally naked, nothing covering their genitalia, and they're dancing around in front of little kids and parents. First of all, what the hell are the parents thinking? I would have grabbed my kid and said, "We're going home. We'll go for ice cream. We're out of here. You're not seeing this." But some parent, they just kind of let it happen. Like, "Oh, look at the man. He's naked. Ha ha, isn't that funny?" No, it's not funny. It's lewd and lascivious, and it's wrong.
Yeah, it is.
And
it's terrible.
But Bill, this is the fabric of our country. We are a moral, decent country. I would think that things like this are intentional because it's trying to tear that decency apart. They want to make this normal. They want to make it so that every parade has a bunch of naked people in it, and it's no big deal anymore. It'd be as if they can get their foot in the door a little bit, then they'll just keep pushing until they get the whole body through that damn door.
I don't know that we're going to be the same country today. We're not the same country we today that we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago.
It's funny you should say that. I was looking at a
10 years from now, it's going to be, I don't know.
James Woods, the actor, over the weekend. He's usually a pretty positive kind of guy, like, we can do this, we got to do that. He wrote a tweet, and it said, "It's too late. As a country, we're doomed." I thought, my God. And he went. It wasn't like he wasn't leading into something saying, "Well, maybe not." He meant it. This is a guy who's a conservative, and he figures we're beyond the point of no return. Lara Logan, thank God, thinks that we're getting close to the edge, but we still can walk back from the edge.
I like to believe in her, but I have to, because I think I told you, I have a code that there are only two absolutes in the world, and they are looking to change that. But the two absolutes are birth, you're born, and when you die. Those are the absolutes. Everything else in between is not an absolute, which means no matter how bad it can get better. No matter how good it is, it can and probably will be worse. It can fluctuate. So right now we are between the book. We live in the bookends of life. The absolutes, and our life plays. It's up to us.
One more thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a tweet. I don't know if you saw this or not. Here's what she said: "Last night in my D.C. residence, the television turned on by itself, and the screen showed someone's laptop trying to connect to the TV. Just for the record, I'm very happy. I also am very healthy and eat well and exercise a lot. I don't smoke and never have. I don't take any medications. I'm not vaccinated, so I'm not concerned about blood clots, heart conditions, strokes, or anything else, nor do I have anything to hide. I just love my country and the people, and know how much they've been screwed over by the corrupt people in our government, and I'm not willing to be quiet about it or willing to go along with it." That's Marjorie Taylor Greene. She had the TV come on in her house without her using a remote, and she saw somebody's laptop on the TV screen trying to manipulate her TV.
Yeah. Well, anything that you do over the open air cable or anything like that can be retrieved and manipulated. And let me tell you something, just like these headphones I have on, our speakers, it's the same mechanical mechanism pretty much inside that works as a microphone.
Sure.
Now, your television screen, it might be a screen, but how do you know that the speaker is not also subbing as a mic and the screen is not really also a reverse camera? It all works that way, and it's kind of crazy. You had the thing with the Black Stop helicopter. I've had the things where things turn on, TV. My Alexa has turned on before for no reason at all. So I think that they do monitor everyone. The more electronic devices they have, the more you can be monitored. Two headlines that we can't go into them, but I'll mention it. Apparently, House GOP, almost all migrants at ports of entry are being freed in the U.S. Of course, we've talked about that before.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got the Democrat, the Rhode Island state senator, arrested for, and this shows the character of a real core Democrat, and I'm not saying they're all that way, but I mean, these are the people that are just party, and left all the way. But he was, he keyed somebody's car because, they had a Biden suck sticker on it. So,
well, I got some audio. I'll play this for you, Bill. It's the guy. Right. First, you're going to hear the guy who had his SUV keyed. Then you're going to hear right next to it the audio from this Joshua Miller, the state senator, who is saying, "Oh, I didn't key the. No, I would. He recognized me as a state senator." And then you're going to hear the cop catching him in the lie, saying, "We got video at the very end." You have to listen carefully. This is the audio.
Well, I heard a loud scratching noise, and as I turned the corner, there he was with keys in his hand facing the vehicle.
He was blocking my way, saying I scratched his car. I didn't scratch his car. I'm a state senator. I think he recognized me. I think he's one of the gun nuts.
I don't even know any of the senators, to be honest. Why would you key his car?
Listen, he was threatening me already.
There's a video.
Okay, he was threatening me already.
Hear what he said? First, he says he's one of those gun nuts. This is the senator saying that the guy who had his car keyed was a gun nut. Then he said he didn't do it because I think he recognized me. I'm a state senator. Who and
Who cares?
And then the guy says, "Hey, I don't know any state senators. I just saw this guy key my car." And then the guy continuing the lie until the cop he's standing with says, "Look, we got it on video. We got it on video." Okay, all right. Well, he was he sounded like an idiot. And the guy, by the way, is 69 years old, this senator. I would think that he would be a little smarter than to do something so stupid and to risk his career. Pardon?
One would think. But reality, says something different.
Much. Yes. Hey, listen, have we done it, my friend, again? Are we in the...
Yeah, we're a little over, but that's okay. We always are. It's kind of like weight, when you get older.
Yes.
You're always just a little bit over.
Isn't that the truth?
A lot, but,
Yeah. Hey, if you want to contact us, our number is 833-538-7868, 833-538-7868.
Or there's mail at itsanotherday.com. We always say we should put this at the front of the show, but we always forget. My fault, but we gotta actually start doing that because we see numbers growing. But the one thing we don't see is a lot of feedback from people via the. Actually, we do get feedback, but we get feedback from political candidates on both sides of the fence. Because they want to send us all their stuff, and I'm like going, we already have the news, we know what's going on, and we'll make our own determinations. But we don't. We want to hear from you. Is who we want to hear from, and it's important that we do.
Well, if you would do us a favor, we would like you to tell your friends about us. We had a terrific weekend as far as downloads go. We are growing in leaps and bounds. And you sometimes wonder how they find you, but they do. People find you. It's like the old saying in baseball, build it and they will come. Well, maybe that's the case here. We're doing it and people are finding us. But it still would be nice if you were to tell your friends about the show. It doesn't matter if they're like-minded or if they have a different opinion about politics. Sometimes it's an education for them to hear another opinion. I don't think we do a program that we couldn't put on the radio.
No, I thought the weekend update was great. Of course, my wacky left person that listens out there goes, whoa, Biden was not responsible for that little mini sub going down. I'm going, nobody ever said that on this show. Where the hell did you get that?
Don't you love how they read stuff in? They read stuff in.
There was no way to read it into our caption and no way to read it into the listening. But people hear
what they want to
hear, what they want to hear and see. And that is a fact of life. And I'm sorry they saw it or heard it that way, because that was the voice in their head that was talking to them.
Yes, and listen, what do they say? You can't fix stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
But we didn't call you stupid.
No, speak for yourself. Hey, listen, have yourself a wonderful day, my friend. We'll do it again tomorrow. You stay well.
I am out of here.
The voice of freedom, CRN America. These days, when you want an answer about just about anything, you ask Alexa. You ask her about the weather. You ask her who won your favorite sporting event. You ask her to find a fact that you can't find anywhere. Well, we did that too. We asked her how many people have downloaded it'sanotherday.com. And this is what she said.
From acceleration.com. It has been downloaded as much as 260,433,467 times.
I know. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to us, too. But it's Alexa. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And tell your friends about it'sanotherday.com. We could use an extra listener. I mean, what do you do when you only have 260 million?